Having a consistent icon set is crucial to any web design project, and there's a couple ways that you could accomplish that. You can find tons of these for free online, including in the Figma community tab. You could create your own using the pen tool here in Figma or over in Illustrator or a similar design tool, or you can do what I do, which is a little bit of both. My go-to method for creating an icon set for my client projects is to find one online that I really like that goes with the brand. Icon Noir is definitely my favorite free source for icons and what we'll be using for this project. And then I'll fill in the gaps by designing them myself, but keeping with the same style and line quality so that they all look cohesive together as if they were designed by the same designer. Let's get started doing that for Fernie. So Fernie is a modern, approachable, very friendly furniture brand, and I think the icons in Icon Noir really fit with that vibe. I've just gone to iconnoir.com, and as you can see here, they have over 1,300 icons. They have tons, and they're all in the same style. So it's really, really nice. So you can just go through and browse through these. They're just categorized here. You can also go and search for whatever you need. And the cool thing is you can actually change the sizing and the color and the stroke weight here. So this is changing what will actually download or copy whenever you choose kind of how you want to copy this over to your Figma file. So I am going to go with 16 for these icons initially, and I think I want the stroke weight to be 1. And we're going to use SVGs, so we can always change this in Figma once we get them in there. So let's go into search and let's just find one for cart. So I kind of like the looks of this one. I know it's really small, but I'm going to do copy SVG. And then we're going to go back over to our Figma doc and we're just going to do Command V to paste. And here we go. We have our editable SVG here. So they put it inside this frame here. It's usually good to keep all of your icons in the same size. So frame them within the same size frame. So I'm going to call this icon cart. And we're going to group these into components later on, but for now, let's just get a nice library of icons to use. So here we go. As you can see, if I select on both of these, we can change the colors here, and we can also change the stroke weight. So let's say I want this to actually be a little bit more. So I think 1 is good for this, and we're going to stick with black for now. Okay, so we have this one. Now I'm going to need a bunch more icons. So I'm going to grab one for a credit card. We'll do a star for maybe favoriting your favorite items on the Fernie site. We'll grab some arrows we can use for navigation, a shield, a globe, a ribbon, a couple of things that I know we're going to need for our site. So I've actually already grabbed everything that I think we're going to need. So I'm just going to add the cart to that. And this is looking pretty good. But since this is a furniture site, I also want to have icons for each category of furniture, like rugs, dresser, tables, outdoor, things like that. And those aren't something that I can find in Icon Noir, unfortunately, but it's easy enough to fill in the gaps when we have a style that we want to work off of. So let me show you how I do that. So we're just sort of looking at this general style here. It's very like rounded and friendly, like I said. And what we're going to do is actually create our own icon here. So I'm going to create a new frame, and I'm going to actually make it 30 by 30. These are going to be larger icons. So we're going to have this set of smaller ones, and then we're going to have a set of larger ones for the categories. So we don't need a fill for this. I'm going to call this dresser. And all I'm going to do is start with some shapes. So let's take the rectangle tool and just create a rectangle. I think that 25 by 18 is good, but we definitely don't want this to be a gray box, right? We want it to be an outline. So instead of a fill, I'm going to add a stroke. And then I think 1 pixel is probably good. But as you can see, the corners are really sharp and that's not what we want. So I'm going to just click on this rectangle here and we're going to go into the 3 dots. And see here, we have join round. So I'm going to do that. And that doesn't show up when you have your selection on inside. So we're going to put it on center. Now we need to put a line in the middle to create these 2 different drawers. So that's not bad. And then we need another line to come down from this spot here so that we can have it as legs, I guess. And we're going to need to round the bottom of that and make sure that it lines up perfectly with the edge. And then we're just going to duplicate that over here. Now this looks good, but it needs some drawers. So I'm going to do another line here and make sure that's centered. And again, we're going to change these to have rounded edges. It's just much more in line with like the friendly vibe that we're going for. And there we go. I'm just going to take all of these shapes and lines and group them together using Control G. And then I'm going to center that within this frame here. Okay, we've got something simple like this dresser here, but what if we want to make something a little bit more complex like a sofa? I've grabbed this reference image, so let's try to create something like this, but with the same simple line quality of this dresser and the other elements that we have on our site. So to do this, we're going to create a couple different shapes and combine them together using Boolean groups. So we're going to grab a rectangle and create sort of that bottom cushion of our chair. Let's make this black so we can see it for now. Then we'll go up and create some circles here that are going to be kind of like the arms of the chair coming out at you. So I'll make this a little smaller, I feel like. Okay. And then make these black as well. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now we're going to combine these together using Boolean groups, specifically the union group. So I'm going to go up to Object, Boolean Groups, Union Selection. Okay, so now we have this shape and now we can give it a stroke instead of this fill. So I'm going to get rid of the fill and add a stroke. And it's looking pretty good, except like these corners are really sharp. So we're going to go to these 3 dots and instead of join, this kind of miter look, we're going to go with round. So that makes these just a lot more nice and rounded. And the cool thing about using Boolean groups is you can go in and actually change things after the fact. So if I wanted to move these down or up, I could do any of that. If I wanted to move each one in a little bit, then we can do that. I think that's looking pretty good. Now we just have to create the back and the legs for our chair. So I'm going to go up to rectangle again, and we're just going to create the back of this. So I think we want it to go about like that. Let's just move this to the back so that we can see what we're working with. We will make this into a stroke instead. And then what we're going to do in order to kind of get rid of this bottom half is add some anchor points in here. So I'm just going to hit the pen tool. And as you can see, when I have the pen tool selected and I go over the stroke, I can add any points I want. So I'm going to add a point right there. And then I'm going to hit escape. And then I'm going to add a point here. And then I'm going to hit escape again. And this way I'm not like creating a line of points. I'm just adding points to the stroke. Then I am going to select on these bottom points that I want to get rid of and just hit delete. and then I'll click done once I'm done. So now we have this shape here, but we definitely want to round these corners a bit. So I'm just going to select on each point that I want to round, and we can go up here and see how much we want them rounded. I think a 3-pixel radius is pretty good. Okay, this is looking good. Now let's just create the leg. So this is going to be easy. I'm just going to grab the line tool, and I'm just going to go sort of straight down from here, like these sort of lines that we already have. And then I'm going to select on those and change the ends to be round. And there you go. We have this awesome chair. So now I just want to make sure that the scale is correct with this dresser. So it looks like a little bit too big. Well, it's pretty close, but I think we could make it a little bit smaller. So when we do that, things are going to get a little messy. So now the scale is looking a lot better. I am just going to select on all of this and frame it together, and we'll just name this chair. Now I've done the same process with a few other elements here. So we're just going to bring these over, and this is the little icon system that we'll come back to when we're ready to make these into components. Feel free to go ahead and create this yourself and get some practice with the pen tool, the line tool, the rectangles, all of that. Or if you want to just go skip ahead, then feel free to download these from the asset folder provided for this course and just go right to the next lesson. In that next lesson, we're going to be starting to add text to our homepage design.